Hello everyone, I'm R. Debreeze, and this is Summoner Wars. Today we've got Tacullu and Sneeks. Tacullu starts, comes out, pretty standard move there, trying to take the Beast Rider out. Fails to do so. Notice the positioning of Tacullu's wall there. That's what I would call a defensive positioning. That's the second walls being placed in the backfield. What you're going to see in this game, though, is Tacullu moves directly into the midfield and starts trying to gain possession of the midfield. Brief comment about Tacullu, the faction. Very different from the Tacullu of the first edition. This Tacullu likes the midfield. I would say it's a hybrid between a midfield deck and an assassination deck. Sneeks is very similar to his first edition counterpart. Sneeks likes to move out of the midfield and into the enemy's backfield and swarm their walls and take their summoning points away. That's a bit of a problem for Sneeks here in this game, as you can see. He's just got the starting wall, and what he's chosen to do instead is spread his troops out rather thinly throughout the midfield to try and take some of the bodies away. Sneeks doesn't have, we don't see another wall from Sneeks in this game, and I suspect they were buried in his deck. Tacullu, with the wall positioning where it is, isn't really going to be able to capitalize on that. It would have been nice to see one of those walls at least being placed into the midfield, and that way Tacullu would have been able to seal off some of Sneeks' forward-facing summoning points. Had he done this, I suspect that Sneeks would have had a very difficult time moving out of his own zone, and that's where Sneeks would be weakest, is stuck in his own zone. Instead, Sneeks is able to get free movement here from all four summoning points, and he takes full advantage of that. In terms of the card count, so far Tacullu's doing pretty well, taking advantage of the Mind Witch's tricks, getting an extra attack from copying a Slinger, as well as what we saw earlier, moving units off of Deceivers with the Wind Mage's power. That's why Tacullu's a midfield deck. He has ways in which he can gain economy. His units are on the expensive and weak side, but with those extra tricks, he's able to do extra damage, and that's why he's able to be successful in the midfield. As this game goes on, what we see here is really three rows of no man's land, and both factions trying to get into that area and take it over. This eventually degrades into a punch-out. As you can see here, Tacullu's exposed himself on three sides, and Sneeks is going to take advantage of that in a moment. However, that would be expected by Sneeks. Even though Sneeks isn't quite able to get it done, even with the pylon. Again, this is a deck issue, I think, or a hand issue. Sneeks could have used an Enrage, and if he had one, this probably would have been the last turn for Tacullu. Instead, Tacullu's going to get one good shot at Sneeks, and Tacullu takes full advantage of that with Gul'dun on the board. I would say if I were looking at this again, there's really no cure for having walls buried in your deck. So if you don't have them in your Sneeks, then you're just in trouble. The best thing you can do is probably clear out your hand. Tacullu, on the other hand, did have the walls, but left them in his own backfield, and for that reason really wasn't able to punish Sneeks as much as maybe he could have had he played those walls in a more forward position and summoned his units from there. Once again, tried to seal off those forward summoning points.